Well, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the May 2nd Lunchtime Hot Topic. This is Brad Neuenswander. This is, I believe, our last one for the year. We might have one more to be able to squeeze it in, but just wanted to thank everybody for a great year, and we're excited for several opportunities that are going to be coming up. On the agenda today, we're going to have Don Gifford's going to give an update on the work with the Civic Advocacy Network and some of the awards we're looking at. We have Mischell Miller and Jeanette Noble will be given an update on licensure pilot along with some accreditation updates. Kent Reed's going to give you an update on the work with the SECD, the Social Emotional Character Development Standards. And Julie Ewing will be giving you an update on work with kindergarten readiness. I want to remind everybody that to put on your calendar the Summer Impact Institutes. Those are going on at Emporia State and Fort Hays. You'll see the Emporia State one is June 4th and 5th, and then July 17th and 18th will be at Fort Hays. Great time during the summer to get some teachers, to get some teams, to go learn about the board outcomes, the initiatives, and what school districts are doing and related to KESA and the process that they're working on. I also want to remind everybody that the Summer Leadership Conference for school administrators is July 25th and 26th in Wichita. And then to have on your calendar next October, the annual conference. This will be a big change next fall. Normally, the first day of this three-day conference, the pre-conference is typically around assessments. We are going to move content from assessments into the regular conference as breakout sessions. And we're going to repurpose the first day pre-conference to be around school redesign. We're working on an agenda for that, but any school district that wants to learn more about school redesign, it'll be a great way to get some good information, listen to some of our redesign districts, just spend a day learning about what we're doing with school redesign with Mercury and Gemini. Also, another date to put on your calendar, the Teacher Retention Summit, which will be held again at Kansas State University at the Alumni Center, is next fall, November 19th. If you have questions, as always, or requests for additional topics, you can send those to lunchtime@ksde.org. And before I go on, we just received this information this morning. You will be getting your Title I allocations here later in May. And I just want to give everybody a heads up. Our state Title I allocations are set by the U.S. Department of Ed. The good news is we have fewer students in Kansas that are living in poverty. The bad news is across the nation, there are more students living in poverty. So Kansas is going to receive about a 9% reduction in our Title I funds. The formula that we send them out is set by the U.S. Department of Ed. We will have some districts see an increase in Title I funds and some school districts see a decrease. But overall, as a state, we will be getting about a 9% reduction in our state Title I allocations. That's the bad news. It has nothing to do with anything we've done as a state, other than there are other states that are doing worse off as far as poverty, which is the driver of it. And so anyway, we'll be sending those allocation letters out here later this month. So I just want to give people a heads up. You could get a small increase or you could get a decrease. So other than that, we've got a good agenda for today. So I will turn it over to the staff. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to update you on the Civic Advocacy Network and encourage schools in your district to fill out the application to be in the inaugural Civic Advocacy Network class. Schools will be scored, the award program was created to reward districts who have implemented creative and innovative ways to get students engaged in their communities. The application is now open and can be found on the KSDE Civic Engagement page. Just go to ksde.org, click on the C, find Civic Engagement, and click. The application and the information guide, which includes the scoring rubrics as well as an award one-pager, can be found near the top of the page. Schools will be scored using rubrics addressing these 6 proven practices. The practices are rigorous social studies learning, classroom discussions, not just in the social studies classroom, but in all classrooms, community and service learning projects, engaged extracurricular activities and groups in the community, strong student voice in government, and available practice for democratic simulations. Schools will be awarded a rubric score for each practice, and then the scores will be combined to identify the best in our state. The application deadline is June 1st. KSDE practice committees will score the applications and conclude their work by August 1st, and we will select elementary, middle, and high schools to win the award. Schools will be notified in August of the award, and then award ceremony will be held in Topeka on Constitution Day, September 17th. If you have any questions about the network, the application, the scoring rubrics, or for that matter, anything to do with civic engagement, please contact me, Don Gifford, at dgifford@ksde.org. Please consider applying. It would be quite a feather in the cap of schools that were in the inaugural Civic Advocacy Network class.
Hi, my name is Mischell Miller. I am the new Teacher Licensure and Accreditation Director with the Department of Education. Most of you probably know that, but I just wanted to start out as this is my first presentation as a hot topic. I'm excited today to bring you exciting news, I think, on 3 different topics. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first one will be our KESA update, just a reminder of the obvious. KESA stands for Kansas Education Systems Accreditation. So my updates are going to be pretty general in nature. Right now, systems are in the process of hosting their on-site visits with their chairs. They have finalized and submitted their initial reports, and if you find yourself as a district who hasn't yet done that, I would check in with my superintendent, curriculum director, or whomever is responsible for submission of state reports and see to it that that has taken place. The last system support call for 2018 has already taken place. We found that those were a great way to be able to be in touch with districts and would love to hear feedback on whether you want those to continue or not in the weeks and months to come as we move through KESA. There were some application clarifications and corrections on 15.1 through 15.3 and also 15.4 to 15.6. Again, any questions that might be out there in the big wide world about that, just feel free to get in touch with us and we're happy to answer and make those clarifications. There are a few application enhancements that are taking place. As systems wrap up their visits, the final report is there. Chairs have access to the KESA application now. Reminder that if you are chairing multiple districts, you need to go in and request authentication through KSDE and register as a new user. And in doing so, you would want each of those usernames to be unique to the individual district you were serving. For example, USD 380 Mischell, and then my password can be whatever that might be. I'm also serving USD 210, so I might use the username as USD 210 with the same password. If I'm also serving USD 101, that might be my username. Passwords can be the same. We have added to, you'll see when you're on there, if you are a chair or a team member or a system, that the full workbook is there. The yearly summaries are there as well. And in the end, the Accreditation Review Council, or the ARC, will have access to all systems and their applications for the process that they are working through. Some of our next steps, we realize that we need to do sort of a Chair 2.0 updated training. That might include further instruction on how to evidence the things that you are seeing as you go out and you do those yearly visits. We need to help our systems understand what sources of evidence can be used as well. So look for Chair and Member Training 2.0 in the months to come. We realize as well there are some revisions to the visiting team workbook. There are revisions to the rubrics to be made, further training for systems. We want to hear from you about continued support calls and Zooms for chairs as well. Look for some chair training, some opportunities to review and discuss how this process has gone so far at our Summer Impact Institute sessions. So I wanted to also give you a little information about the Accreditation Review Council. This council is a state level group of professionals, not just educators. We have business professionals included on this. We also have recently added a couple of legislative members who will bring another flair to the conversation as we look at their work in making a recommendation to the state board in regard to accreditation status. These folks will have their first meeting on May 2nd, and at this point we believe we have 2 public systems and 5 private systems coming before them for their first review. And the recommendation will go to the board, we believe, for the June school board meeting, state school board meeting. There we go. May 2nd, 2 public, 5 private. We are working out the review council recommendation format and also the executive summary for the state board. Keep in mind there are over 300 systems the state board might be responsible for, and how can we make that process convenient for them as they put their stamp of approval on each of the systems. Questions concerning any of these topics related to accreditation, you can contact myself, you can contact Jeanette or Bill. My third topic of discussion under my responsibilities are working with the Kansas Volunteer Commission, KVC, and I wanted to just bring you some civic engagement updates. There's some great things going on there that Kansas schools may or may not be aware of. Part of the Civic Advocacy Network work is that they have created an award for Kansas schools to promote civic education and engagement, and they are accepting applications, a deadline of June 1st, and that application is available on the Civic Engagement web page. Also, the Governor's Community Service Award, another award to recognize hard work of students, hard work and selfless service of high school students across our state. We'd love to see a bunch of nominations come in for this outstanding opportunity to recognize the work of our students. Nominated students, we would consider those to be folks that volunteer at any nonprofit, a community organization, faith-based organizations, businesses, schools, or national service programs. This is another fantastic way to recognize the work of Kansas students, and we're excited to bring this opportunity to you. Schools may nominate 1 junior and 1 senior. The deadline is fast approaching. It's April 30. Nominations are available at www.canserve.org. Any questions about the work of the KVC and the Volunteer Commission, please direct those to Jessica Noble, and she is happy to help you in any way. I'm equally excited about bringing you some updates on the licensure pilots that are available right now. This is a recent release and was approved by the state board in February, I believe. And so what we have created are pilot programs for elementary education and high incidence special ed. The state board approved 2 statewide pilots of alternative pathways for elementary education and special education. These opportunities came out of the Teacher Vacancy and Supply Committee. And what we have done is created an opportunity for districts to choose a qualified individual. So the initial process is originated from the district level. 2-year statewide pilot. There are alternative pathways for elementary and special education high incidence. So a limited apprentice license would be issued to those participants meeting the eligibility requirements. They can then be assigned as the teacher of record. The goal is for them to complete an approved program within 2 years. Extension request could be granted should extenuating circumstances exist. The pilot would sunset and be reviewed and evaluated after 2 years. So let's go into a bit more detail on the elementary pilot. Remember, the idea is that the candidate process is initiated by the school district. So this is a pilot for elementary teachers who are already possess a 4-year degree in something other than education. For example, a business degree from Kansas State University. So the district identifies the candidate. They would verify enrollment in an approved elementary program. And that fall semester, they would participate in a field experience coupled with coursework. The second semester, KSDE would issue them a limited apprentice license, and they would become the teacher of record in that second semester. Again, remember I said that they must complete that entire program within 2 years. So on the special education side, these again are degreed candidates identified by the district. One stipulation with these candidates is that they would have served at least 1 year as a special education paraprofessional. So they too would verify enrollment in an approved program for high incidence special ed. In the fall semester or the first semester of the program, they continue as a sped para and complete 6 to 9 credit hours. Second semester then, they too are issued a limited apprentice license and can become teacher of record. And the guidelines ask that they complete the entire program within that 2 years as well. So if you're interested in further information, you can access the application that the district would initiate for qualified individuals. Eligibility, a certificate of eligibility would be issued, and the first semester requirements are completed. The limited apprentice license is issued after the first semester. An approved program, again, completed within 2 years, unless there are extenuating circumstances. That limited apprentice license allows placement of an elementary classroom K-6. The limited apprentice license for high incidence special ed allows for those folks to be in a supportive SPED assignment in a high incidence program being completed. The limited TAP license. This is a program sponsored by Wichita State. It's an innovative elementary early childhood unified program, and Wichita State provides the requirements and forms. The limited TAP license then allows for placement in a general education assignment or a special ed assignment at birth to grade 3 level. We're excited to announce that KSDE is in the midst of pilot conversations with Kansas State to explore micro-credentialing as a pathway for redesigning professional learning and teacher relicensure. Micro-credentials, we're choosing this definition for now. It seems to be a buzzword, but what we're specifically talking about is a personalized professional unit of study in which a specific competency is earned and recognized through a tangible credential. We'll bring more information about the micro-credentialing pilot as we get deeper into that. We're at the very beginning stages and just getting started, so very excited about that. If you have questions about those two pilot opportunities, questions about the micro-credentialing pilot, please be in touch with Susan Helbert, Assistant Director. She can help answer those as necessary. Please be in touch with us if you have any questions.
Hi everybody, this is Kent Reed. I'm the school counseling consultant as well as the facilitator for the social, emotional, and character development standards. And what we'd like to do today on Hot Topics is discuss the revisions of the SECD standards. Again, everyone is probably familiar with our new vision, which is Kansas leads the world in the success of each student. And much of that was developed on the basis of community conversations that Brad Neuenswander, our Deputy Commissioner, and Dr. Randy Watson, our Commissioner, did 3 years ago. They did 2 tours of the state. One was visiting with just general communities, which included educators, parents, etc. And then they went back out and did another tour talking to businesses in the business communities. And what we found out was when asked the question, what skills will make kids successful after they leave school, the general community said 70% of the general community said that it was non-academic skills. And then in the business community, 81% of those folks said that it was non-academic skills. And by non-academic skills, we mean social, emotional, character development skills. In order to understand the significance of social emotional learning, Castle did a study along with Durlock et al. And in their study, which was a meta-analysis, they found that if you implement a SEL or SECD program in your school with fidelity, you will realize a 9% improvement in pro-social behaviors, which results in a reduction in suspensions, expulsions, 9% improvement in attitudes about self and others, 9% reduction in problem behaviors, again, suspensions, DRs, expulsions, 10% reduction in emotional distress, meaning that kids won't be as depressed as maybe they otherwise would be, 11% increase in standardized achievement test scores, and this is really what sold social emotional learning or social emotional character development as we call it in Kansas during the No Child Left Behind period, because the most important thing to teachers and administrators at that point was an assessment. And we found out that by implementing SEL or SECD in their schools, they were able to raise test scores. And then a 23% increase in social emotional skills. Now, we were the first state to develop social emotional character development skills. And what we did, standards. What we did was that we combined social emotional learning with character development. Okay. Now, currently, 8 states have K-12 SEL competencies. 8 additional states are developing guidelines, and then 16 states have some kind of SEL-related web pages. But one of the more interesting studies came out of the Teachers College at Columbia University, and it was in regards to the economic value of social emotional learning. And what they found was that if you invest, for every dollar that you invest in social skills instruction, the return on that was $11. And that came in terms of graduation rates, juvenile justice data, etc. So it's well worth the investment. What Dr. King taught us was that intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. So let's talk about our social emotional character development standards and the revisions that we have been undertaking over the past 9 months. Again, we were the first state to adopt social emotional character development standards. Those were originally adopted in 2012. Now, as a result of the change in culture and the change in educational vision and programming, we decided it was time to revise those. And what we tried to do was incorporate the prevention statutes, the Flat Act, Aaron's Law, bullying, etc. We also wanted to address the career domain, and the SECD skill set in the career domain is employability. We also address civic engagement, and we have completed the final first draft, or I should say the final draft, and we will be taking those to the board in June for first read and hopefully approval in July. All right, so this is what our standards look like. There are 3 standards: character development, personal development, and social development. Under each one of those, there are benchmarks. Under character development, we have core principles and responsible decision-making and problem solving. Now, the character development piece is very important because it's not really something that's passed down from on high. We don't give you a list of character traits that you should incorporate in your classrooms and your schools, but rather it's what you decide is important in your building. Now, certainly there are certain ethical characteristics that we want all kids to have, and you can go back to the community conversations and look at that data: conscientiousness, persistence, etc. Another one that everybody is teaching now is the ethical use of technology. Those all fall under the core principles, but the key is that you, in your district, decide what core principles are the most important. All right? So in social development, you have social awareness and interpersonal skills, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment in some of the offerings that we have. And then under personal development, you have self-awareness and self-management. You've heard the term regulation, self-regulation, co-regulation. That would be under the personal development standard. Okay, so the state board's goal relative to SECD is that each student develops the social, emotional, and character competencies that promote learning and success in life. When you look at our standards, you'll see that we've listed at the very beginning purpose, definition, and core beliefs. Now, the purpose of SECD is to provide schools a framework for integrating social emotional learning with character development so that students will learn, practice, and model essential personal life habits that contribute to academic, career, and personal success. The definition: SECD standards encompass practicing good citizenship as respectful, responsible, empathetic, and ethical individuals through making healthy decisions, practicing personal safety, understanding risk prevention, promoting a positive school culture, problem solving effectively, and valuing excellence. And you can see how the prevention statutes fit into the standards. Now, we revised the core beliefs because the original standards were a little bit wordy in terms of the core beliefs. So we decided to list what we would call boom thoughts. For example, SECD skills are teachable and measurable. Boom, period. SECD skills are essential for academic achievement. These skills are developed within a continuous growth process throughout life. You never stop learning in terms of SECD skills. SECD skills are acquired by students through intentional, integrated efforts of the entire school, family, and community. We're all in this together. It's just not the counselor's responsibility. It's just not the principal's. It's everyone's responsibility. SECD skills are best learned in a respectful, safe, and civil school environment where adults are caring role models. All right, I'm going to walk you through the actual standards just to give you an idea of what they look like in format. All right, you have the definition and the rationale in front of each of the 3. And then there's a graphic that explains what the definition is, what the rationale is, and then it talks more about the core principles, and it talks about responsible decision-making and problem solving. But the real heart of our standards you can find down here. First of all, it's broken into age levels, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. So it's gradually age appropriate. And the real idea is awareness, knowing what to do, and then practicing it, doing it. Okay, that's character development. The same thing occurs with personal development. And again, knowing and doing. Social development. And again, same format. Benchmarks and indicators, and then the knowing and doing. Now, SECD is very important because there are statutory requirements. The Bullying Act, KSA 728256, was established several years ago and is still in effect. We've addressed that in our standards. The Jason Flatt Act, which is the youth suicide statute, we've addressed that. Aaron's Law is not an actual law in Kansas, but the need to address child sexual abuse is. So we've addressed that. And of course, 2 years ago, the legislature passed Senate Bill 367, which involves juvenile justice reform, and we tried to address that as well. So some of the ongoing initiatives that we have the curricular standards, as we're talking about today, and we provide technical assistance, curriculum, and instruction with that. We have a contract with a KU Research Collaboration to provide the Kansas College and Career Competencies Project. We've established a train-the-trainer initiative as part of that, and there are pilot schools, and I think they're up to now 47, and I'll show you a little bit more about that here in a moment. One of the real neat initiatives that we have ongoing that's based on need is trauma-informed or trauma-insensitive schools, and we've done quite a bit of work on that. We've tried to reflect that in our standards. I'll show you the school mental health framework in a moment. Friday, May 3rd, we will have the last National and Kansas Schools of Character Recognition Program. We are transitioning into recognition programs for all of the board outcomes. SECD is one of them. Other board outcomes are IPS, graduation, post-secondary, and kindergarten readiness. They all will have recognition programs, but this is specific to schools of character, and we've always had national schools of character that were announced after we've had our own Kansas Schools of Character program. It will be May 3rd at Brown versus the board. And then another opportunity to understand the significance of transition is with growth mindset. And what we've done is that we have merged growth mindset with math and created the Transition to College Algebra Initiative. And Melissa Fast is the coordinator for that. So I've mentioned several things that we took a look at and tried to embed in the standards as far as edits, and we talked about Jason's Law, Aaron's Law, the bullying bill, school mental health. You can see that all the way through the standards. Trauma-informed, or ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Self-harm, we still have too many kids cutting themselves, hurting themselves. Try to address that. Recovery and resiliency. And in this culture, it's very important that you have a crisis plan and a plan of operations during that crisis, and also a recovery plan. That was actually required by the Jason Flatt Act. Growth mindset we mentioned. Another initiative we have ongoing is civic engagement, and we just had the Civic Engagement Conference a few weeks ago. It was a huge success. Look more for that. Don Gifford is the coordinator for that. And then, of course, because of cyberbullying, we've taken a look at including ethical use of technology. Now, one of the activities that we're doing in terms of the standards, but also in terms of all three counseling domains, the career, the academic, and the social emotional, is this new roadshow, Building Hope Through the IPS. And Joni and Jody are out on the road again, doing a great job as usual. What they try to answer in this roadshow is the question, how do you build hope in each student for a bright, successful future? And what they have done is they've included the career development cycle, social, emotional, and character development, and the IPS to create a model of career advising. You see the calendar dates. We have a couple next week in Oakley, in Hayes, and then we end in Topeka and Eudora. And I think we're going to offer this again in the fall because things are so hectic in the spring, some folks couldn't get out to it. But this is very innovative. There aren't very many tools out there that can combine all three domains, the career, the academic, and the social emotional. And here's one of the as kind of a tease, here's one of the graphics that they use, one of the tools. Here's the career development cycle, okay? All right, and then there are benchmarks around that. And these little dots out here, these are the SECD standards and how they crosswalk with the model, the career development cycle. CD is character development, PD is personal development, and SD is social development. So you can see how SECD aligns with this model of career advising. Now, this is an activity that I do when I go out and do public comments or provide technical assistance. So far, we've done over 13 public comment sessions, probably 500 people total. And one of the things that we do is I show a slide. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And then I flash the standards and I say, okay, find persistence in the standards. Okay, well, you could find it here in personal development, self-management. You could find it in character development, responsible decision making, and you could find it in social development, having interpersonal skills or social awareness. All right. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. Find careers in the standards. And again, the same thing is true. You can find them in every one of the standards and the benchmarks. If the Cool Kids Club doesn't include everyone, it's actually not very cool at all. Find bullying. And obviously the same is true. All of those are embedded in our standards and the language and the verbiage you find in the standards. All right, the next one's a little bit tougher. This was a cartoon that was drawn by Pia Guerrera from Canada, and it's entitled The Hero's Welcome. Come on, Mr. Fies, so many of us want to meet you. Now, obviously, that's a reference not only to Parkland, because Mr. Fies was the hero who saved several by taking a bullet himself. But back here, you see a representation of all of the victims of school shootings. And my question to you is, find grief and recovery in the standards. Well, the same is true. You can find grief and recovery in each one of these standards. This is my favorite picture because it is unmitigated joy. It also obviously tells us what our vision is. My question is, find graduation in the standards. And obviously, once again, you can find it in every one of the standards. All right, wrapping up, some cool stuff that parallels the work that we're doing with the standards. First of all, how do you measure SECD? We have this toolkit that's available on our website, and it has examples, everything from grit to growth mindset to the work that KU Research Collaboration is doing. I'll show you a slide about that here in a moment. It'll help you understand how to better measure social, emotional, character growth. This is the mental health framework I was talking to you about. It's tier-based in terms of school mental health. What are you doing for all? What are you doing for some? What are you doing for a few? And the community conversations are found on the legs of the triangle. Again, it's similar to MTSS, but its focus obviously is school-based mental health. And up here you have interconnected systems of care, and really that's Senate Bill 367. One of the requirements of that bill was that every school would partner with an MOU with local law enforcement, and if you were really wise, local mental health. It takes a community. We cannot do these things that we need to do with the kids that we have and the society that we have in isolation. Partnerships are essential, and it is an interconnected system of care. Myron Melton is the mental health consultant for XSET, and you can contact him for more information about the mental health framework. This is the College and Career Competency Wheel from Research Collaboration. gives you an idea of characteristics that you might want to consider embedding in your social emotional character development strategies. Now, the way that Amy and Patty do it is that they call it intrapersonal, interpersonal, which is self, others, and then they add something that I think is very important, especially oftentimes academics will criticize the work of SECD because it doesn't deal with thinking. Well, they've added thinking with the cognitive. And in fact, for those of you who are counselors, you know that there's an entire model of therapy called cognitive behavioral. Okay, here's a fact sheet about it, tells you a little bit more. And again, it's Drs. Gomer Erickson and Dr. Noonan at KU's research collaboration. Another neat thing is that CTC, Community Care, has embedded a depression scale in CTC. So that gives you an idea of the state of mind of your kids. All right. They also have aligned their questions, their survey with the SECD standards. And so we're very thankful for that. Today you lead the school. Tomorrow your students will lead the world. And tomorrow those students will be taking care of all of us. So who's awesome? You're awesome. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And if I can be of any help, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Have a great rest of the school year and a great summer. Thank you.
This is Julie Ewing, and I wanted to give you an update today on kindergarten readiness. The Ages and Stages questionnaire will be used as the snapshot for the kindergarten readiness beginning in the fall of 2018. Remember, the collection window will be August 1st to September 20th. Just some friendly reminders that parents will need to complete both the ASQ3 and the ASQ SE2. So there are two questionnaires. It is a parent-completed tool, and it will be for the kindergarten readiness snapshot. So why are we doing this for kindergarten readiness? Well, the snapshot data is just a quick snapshot of where the children's skills and abilities are at that moment in time. And it is helpful for that information for policymakers when they're considering ways to target programs for increased readiness for kindergarten. Why we are not doing this. We are not going to use the ASQ as a gatekeeper to keep 5-year-old children out of kindergarten. We would just want to know if they're ready or not, and we want the teachers to be ready for those children. We're not going to use them as an automatic referral for special education, and we are not going to use them for progress monitoring. Just a reminder that you can take the ASQ, print it out, and share that with parents before the collection window opens. Let's say kindergarten roundup or before they leave for school for the summer. The parents are only going to complete the survey, either the paper copy or online, during the August 1st to September 20th collection window, but they can see that survey anytime. We did some trainings for the ASQ in April, and for those that had missed the live face-to-face trainings that we had held in the fall, those trainings were recorded, and the materials and trainings can be found if you go to ksde.org and look under kindergarten readiness. You're going to click on the page and then scroll down. It's about in the middle of the page. You will find 3 different webinars, one on just ASQ Online, then ASQ3, and then the ASQ SE2. So there are 3 different trainings that you can use, and you can just click on those, and then you can download the PowerPoint if you'd like to. Most buildings in the state have an ASQ Online login, a username and password to get into the ASQ Online. But if for some reason your building does not, you were contacted through email to let you know that you did not have an ASQ Online person, and you can use this SurveyMonkey link to request a contact person for your building. Now the building contact person is able to add users to the system, so you only need one person for your building. This is a great website. Please check it out. It's agesandstages.com/KS. It has how-to videos and frequently asked questions. The place that you log in is at the upper right-hand corner of the screen. So check out agesandstages.com/KS to learn all about the ASQ and how Kansas is using it. Here's just some resources. Check out our webpage at ksde.org. And then again, here's the link for the Ages and Stages website. And then if you have any questions, please email earlylearning@ksde.org or Tiffany Blevins or myself. Contact information is on the screen. Thank you.